He's Folkman. Folkman. Folkman! Oh.
Hello, everybody.
I'm so hot.
Oh, someone really turned the heat up in the Ohno forest, which, I mean, look at this, dude. You saying? You saying? Good?
Yeah.
Good?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very hot here, guys. Welcome back to Ohno. I'm sure you aren't concerned with environmental welfare.
It's boiling though.
It is very hot. Please be known that it's very hot everywhere.
We've probably got some viewers from like California or Texas who are like, I wouldn't even want to tell them the temperature because they'd laugh at us. But for two blokes from England,
For two guys from England, anything above 20 is hot.
Yeah.
But it's too hot.
it's too hot. So it couldn't be hot, but
Forget about that.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Ohno. It's wonderful to be in full swing of things with the scary stories. Anything else to add?
not really. I'm just, like you said, I'm excited that we're getting back into the 2 scary videos a week. We are going to continue with the horrifying. That's going to be coming back very, very soon.
Very, very soon.
But yeah, for now, it's Jack's turn this week. And actually, I've got a question already about your story, but I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm going to wait.
I want another question.
Is this a 2-parter?
No.
Okay. Just from what I heard, it sounded like it might have been a 2-parter, but...
What have you heard?
Well, you said... Alright, if you want to give me the behind the scenes, you said to me, you were like, this is a 1800 word, but I still want to write tomorrow. I've still got loads more. And like normally 1800 is like about where we sort of...
It's the longest one.
So it's the longest one. Alright, well let's get out of the intro. Let's get straight into the story.
Let's do it. Scary stories. Well, usually we make quite a big deal about the title behind the story.
Yeah.
I want to see the big deal.
Yeah. What's the title going to be?
The title for this week's story, Daniel,
Yeah.
is The Witchy Jar.
I love it.
We got to do that again. We got a fucking car horn.
It's fine. In fact, leave this bit in.
There's cars all around the forest. It's bizarre.
It's a busy day.
Anyway,
Hot.
this story is called The Witchy Jar.
When people ask me about my childhood, I often tell them that I don't really remember it. A few choice memories here and there of a time when I got rushed to hospital for fracturing my elbow, or when my Uncle Graham swung me too hard on a swing set and ended up biting a hole through my tongue. But nothing ever too revealing. Nothing to give away the actual extent of things. Just a morsel, a little scrap of believability. The truth is, my memory is nearly pitch perfect, and every god-awful taste I experienced, every misplaced mud pie, and every busted knee, every tear-soaked t-shirt I remember, and it has its own special place in my mind, like a neatly organised filing cabinet, albeit overcrowded and a little bit too cluttered. You see, I'm not sure if it's a gift entirely, or if it's my mind's own way of dealing with things, trying to find a place for every scrap of detail like a fractured mosaic, trying to make sense of the whole. More than anything, I remember when my dad died, and the strange summer that followed. I was 9 years old, 3 months, and a day. No one teaches you how to lose a parent, especially when you're a kid. My mum did things her own way. They were her own memories to suffer through. Whether she remembers them or not is a different kind of story entirely. For me, I had my friends, Freya and Vish. I'm not sure what kind of person I would have been unless I had those two by my side when we first stepped out into the Barkley Wood to find the Witchy Jar. That place where everything changed, for the better or for the worse. I haven't spoken to them for over 20 years, and I'm certain that I never will. You see, some things are better left unsaid. And when you go meddling with the forgotten places of the world, the truth of things are all a matter of perspective. It was the summer of 1966, and it had been almost 2 weeks since my dad had passed away. My mum had said that the doctors didn't know what they were talking about, and that she'd sue the hospital for every penny that she could squeeze out of them. She'd ranted and raved for days on end, between sobbing fits when a door was shut. After the funeral though, she didn't say much else to me. In fact, no one did. School had let me take summer break early and my grandparents had quickly left town. I spent most of those weeks alone, building a den out on the border of Barkley Wood from scraps of pallet crates and broken boxes. It wasn't much, but it was a place to sit and wait for Freya and Vish to finish school. Sometimes I'd cry there, but most times I'd just throw rocks at old paint cans. I got pretty good at it. One afternoon though, out in the den on the last day of school, an old man walked past and poked his head inside. I think he had a dog, or I assume so, but if he did, I never saw it. He had a kindly face with a long, thick moustache that wrapped comfortably around his chin, and he smiled when he saw me. "Pretty good shot there, young lad," he said without announcing himself. I'm not sure whether he'd noticed the tears that had pooled in my eyes, but he quickly bowed his head when he saw me. "Ah, ever so sorry if I startled you, but you best believe that there's worse things in Barkley Wood than a nosy old man." I said it was fine, wiping away the snot from my eyes, not to worry. But when I asked him what he meant by that, his eyes lit up. "Well, the Witchy Jar, of course. What else would I mean? Didn't your old nan ever tell you about a penny for a wish for a door? Come now, boy, you won't have me believe that." If I was being honest, I'd heard a few loose whispers about the strange goings-on out in Barkley Woods, most at night though. And it was my dad that had told me a young girl had gone missing there a few years before I was born. As far as the old man was concerned though, I didn't have a clue, and he scrunched up his face when I told him so. "The Beldam girls," he said with a slight hint of frustration. "The Wisps, the Fae, the Nearmores, the Hast, and me thread tongues long's forgotten. They're all the same though, the deathless of the wood. They've been here longer than even me, and they'll be here longer than you. And for a sprightly boy like yourself, they'll leave gifts out in the deep oak, far, far away from prying old eyes like mine." As he went on, the old man's tone struck me as a little off, one that I could pick up on even as a 9-year-old. He almost seemed excited to get his story out, not in the slow, cautionary way that stern grandparents told children not to meddle by creeks and canals or deep, perilous mine shafts. I'll admit though, at that point, I was already completely entranced by the Witchy Jar. When I asked him what it was and more importantly what it did, his eyes, they shone even wider, and he spread his palms upward, breathing a sigh of wonder. "Everything," he said, "everything and anything. What could a boy ask for from the Fae? A brand new bike? You could ask to be 6 feet tall and then make it so. New friends, new family. They could make you rich beyond your wildest dreams." He paused for a moment and placed his hand on my shoulder and then leant in. "They could even bring back someone from the dead if you pay the price." His hands, they were warm, coarse and matted like the inside of an old oven, but when I stepped back to shrug him off, he held his palm out in front of me, and it glimmered in a shimmer of silver and the hue of dull metal. "2 coins, he said, "and for a curious boy like you, 2 shall be well enough to pay the Witchy Jar. 1 silver and 1 iron. He thrust them into my palm and they clattered together before falling to the dirt, but when I picked them up, I noticed that the strange markings littered the edges of the coins, circles and lines, checkered eyes and teeth, and they both felt heavy between my fingers. I'm not sure why, and I still couldn't tell you now, but I slipped them straight into my pocket, and when I stood back up, the old man was gone. My mind was ablaze with who or what he was, and the truth is, I don't think I'll ever know. As I said, in the forgotten places of the world, truth is a matter of perspective. It's something that I keep telling myself to get by. I'd be lying though if I didn't tell you that I wanted nothing more than to run straight into the deep, dense copse of Barkley Wood to find the Witchy Jar. And sometimes, the way of things, they have a habit of giving you exactly what you wish for. As I thumbed the coins in my pocket, barely even a minute after the old man had disappeared, Freya and Vish clambered through the brambles that bordered the den, still in their school uniforms and sweaty from the heat. I told them all about the Witchy Jar, but still to this day I'm not entirely sure why I didn't tell them about the old man or the coins that had rattled in my pocket. Maybe things would have been different. Of course, being the best friends that they were, they quickly jumped at the chance of trudging through the forest with a good stick in their hands, searching for the creatures of the wood, barely an hour after school had finished for the summer break. We were 9. What else could you expect? We didn't know exactly how deep Barkley Wood was, if not for the fact that our town was bordered by endless hedgerows, farmers' fields, and dense acres of woodland. It all seemed the same. We were too young to know where things began and where they ended. We walked for what seemed like hours, although none of us could really tell. It was early July and the sun only ever seemed to set when it was good and ready. For the rest of the time it was high and full and blazing like an endless blanket of bright white. I'm not sure why, but I kept behind the two of them as they skipped from log to log, skipping and laughing, kicking up the moss and mud from the forest floor. "Witches! Witches! Witchy Jar!" the both of them shouted. "Where are you? We're coming for you." I can still hear them shouting it now. Burnt like some worn out soundbite from an old kid's TV show. I'm not sure whether I'd blinked or faded out, and although my memory is crystal clear of that day and every day that followed it, there's an odd gap in the space where that portion of the forest should be. We were tired, I know that, and Vish and Freya had slowed to a crawl, their shoulders slumped and their sticks hanging loosely by their side. By the time a strange glimmering tree emerged in a clearing before us, we were drawn to it like flies to a lamp as it shimmered like a braying willow, making the soothing clattering sound of glass against wind chimes. As the three of us stepped forward, the truth of the Witchy Jar revealed itself to us. It was a gnarled old thing that seemed as coarse and brittle as the old man's hands, yet it was of a completely different nature. It was as if the old man that I'd spoken to had somehow tried to replicate what that tree was made of, but he hadn't got it quite right. It was the poor imitation of something ancient. As I stepped forward, I remember smoothing my hands across its bough, swirling my fingers around every knot and gnarled root, and that's when I heard it giggle. Not the tree itself, but something inside of it, perhaps beneath it. I'm still not entirely sure. But that's when a hand shot out from beneath and clutched at my ankle, a bony thin wrist of spindly bright white fingers. It pinched and it clawed at me, and as I tripped and fell to the floor, I remember I saw Vish and Freya pinned down by a similar array of hands. "What have you brought for us?" said a voice that chimed like the wind as the glass trinkets of the Witchy Jar seemed to sway with its words. "2 of them, 3 of them, none of them with gifts," it said. "I've got a gift," I blurted out. A penny for a wish? A penny for a door? That's what he told me anyway. That's what the old man said." "Men?" said the voice. "We don't deal with men, especially old men. We only deal with children and the curious ones. We only deal with those with gifts, and gifts we give in return." That's when I reached down into my pocket between the struggle on the forest floor and then thrust out one of the coins. It shone like bright silver, and then the chiming stopped. "I just want to see my dad again," I said, and I threw the coin to the floor. I just want to see him, just once more." The Witchy Jar fell silent, and then behind me, that's when I heard the muffled screams of Freya and Vish, as the very ground that they lay upon seemed to consume them. Their arms waved in the air, I remember, desperately clamouring at the mud and the moss above them as they fell somewhere. I wish I could tell you the last words that they said to me, but some memories they're left for me to deal with. But with that, they were gone. "Blood and silver," said the voice. "A penny for a wish for a door." It's been over 20 years since that day at the Witchy Jar, when I walked home through Barkley Wood, holding my father's hand, which was colder than it had ever been before. He hasn't said a word since that day, and I'm not entirely sure if he ever will. I wonder if he remembers anything, whether he knows what it was that brought him back. I still drive to see him every other weekend when the visiting hours are at their quietest, despite the 5-hour round trip it takes. I had to leave town. I couldn't look at Freya and Vish's parents, knowing what I do now, knowing that they'll never find their children's bodies, even after all these years. Because even to this day, I still keep that other coin in my pocket. The one that's made of iron, the heavier one, the one that sinks deeper into my palm. Maybe one day I'll try to find my way back there, to the Witchy Jar. Or maybe I'll find a boy on the edge, out on Barkley Wood, knowing what I do now. Because a penny for a wish, a penny for a door.
Interesting. Interesting. First of all, correct me if I'm wrong, but is that the first one you've done that's in first person, but as an adult speaking as when they were a child?
Yes.
Because I know you've done a few first person ones before, but whenever you do children, it's usually in third person,
Yes,
right?
it is.
Yeah, and that added a lot more weight. I felt like you had so much more freedom then to think the things an adult would, and it was almost like the adult who was overseeing that story was sort of playing this somber music over these children. Do you know what I mean? Like it was like if it was done in first person, it wouldn't have been anything until the big reveal at the end.
Yes.
But it was really good. It was really good the way that the adult was sort of chiming in every now and again with their thoughts. You know, oh, if I knew that now, or to see them, you know, do this.
There's a freedom in that kind of distance of time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a freedom there, yeah. And I wanted it to kind of... This was my first, like, full attempt at trying to dip my toe in folklore, like actual folklore, right?
Yeah.
But, like, I mean, you do it really well with modern stuff as well, but I really kind of wanted to make a timeless cautionary tale.
Right.
You know?
Well, it's a loop, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, that's what you were saying up at the end there, is that it's a loop, and you know, there's not many more eternal things than sort of stories. You know, children getting into trouble, and hopefully we don't mess the planet up, trees and woods and spooky things. So there's no reason why that could have been set at any time.
Yes.
Like, you know,
yes.
60s was a good place, but it could have been set 100 years before, 100 years in the future.
Which is what I kind of wanted it to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of wanted there to be, you know, a recycled thing, right?
No, that was really good. Jumping to the end now, the iron, as in blood.
Well,
Or have I just come up with a really good thing to it? Be honest.
okay. So, do you know anything about the as a Celtic man? Do you know anything about the importance of iron against the seed?
Against the seed.
Against fairies, against the fae.
I'm guessing it does well against it, wards them off.
Yes. So iron is the combative nature against mischievous fairies and folklore, especially British folklore and Celtic folklore.
Right. See, I took that to be that
Whereas
the
silver was
old
a
man.
gift.
Yes, the old man said give them iron and silver.
Yeah.
And they took the silver, but they took the... Yeah, so I took it to mean that they took the iron from the blood, right? It was a sacrifice, you know, and like maybe the old man knew that or something. Just like, oh, you should give them this, but they want a gift and they want blood.
We've hit a very important point there, because the calamity was that silver and iron would have done a different thing if we would have given both the coins.
Right.
We just give them silver.
Just gave him silver.
Yeah.
Sounds like I blame the old man for that.
That's what I mean, right? And it's what I was trying to allude to there. Maybe it was too much of a loose connection. But what I was trying to allude to was the calamity of a story getting passed down and misinterpreting it if you don't know things. Which is why, you know, I was trying to talk about memory and how things are passed down and how we perhaps mistranslated things, right? Like it's like a game of telephone, but through
Yeah, and you could tell actually, looking back in retrospect, you could tell the narrator had a bit of bitterness about the old man not speaking as if it was a cautionary tale.
Yes.
And this does sound like a cautionary tale.
Because these things are important, right?
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, every story has a meaning, and like, yeah, even stuff that seems sort of irrelevant or not necessary, they always are in folklore. A whole folklore story is just a page after page of like Chekhov's gun.
Exactly.
There's not a single
There has to be
folklore
something.
story. There's not a single thing that goes amiss in a folklore story.
But if one of those key details isn't passed down,
Yeah. Exactly, yeah. Well, that's the thing, is that, like, you know, when you go to tell a story that happened to you recently or whatever, there might be a lot of details you don't really need to, and when people tell them over and over again, they sort of cut down and they refine. That's how you refine a story.
Condense them, yeah.
And that's, the folklore's amazing at that, because it's only the really important stuff should get passed through.
Yeah.
Other types of stories can afford to like pad things out, whatever. But yeah.
I think you've hit the nail on the head on my intention there, actually.
Good.
What if I told you that story may be an origin story?
Let's tell me more than that.
Okay.
Go on.
My idea was somewhere along the line and the chain of things that got passed down, the boy and the old man are both Abraham Thicket.
Oh, okay. They both.
Both. Somewhere
Okay.
in the eternal chain of things.
Okay. See, I didn't. The way the narrator was speaking, though, he didn't sound like the old man.
Yeah.
He didn't.
Not yet.
No. But he sounded like. Like, what would it take to get for him to get from that midlife bit where he's sort of living outside 5 hours away, presumably working a job and going and visiting his dad, and you know, bitter about this old man. What would it take for him to get to that old man point?
Knowledge.
Knowledge. What kind of knowledge? Forbidden knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay, but talk.
This is loose. I just wanted to know what your interpretation is.
I consider being something else. If that is an origin story, then I would say there's something else.
I'm not confirming it's an origin story.
You can't say that you're the.
I'm just saying. I'm not confirming it's an origin story at all. No confirmation.
Tolkien going like, well, maybe that boy was Gandalf, like as an origin story. And they're like, oh, so it's an origin story. Well, I'm not saying that.
Hey,
like, you're the creator. Of
Hey, you did that with Tom Bombadil, dude. So.
Yeah, but then. You either is or it isn't, you know. No, I like the.
I like ambiguity in things.
No, I do like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing I was going to say was there any particular meaning for him having a good memory?
Yes.
And what was that?
He's been burnt before.
Right. So he doesn't forget.
This is one of the most important memories of his life.
Right.
Of his life, right? So because of that, that's what he's saying. I'm not sure whether it's my brain's own defense mechanism or if something happened in the wood, but I remember everything.
Okay. It's like extraordinary.
Yeah.
Power.
Yeah. And that's him trying to remember if there could have been something different or something else or what he's picking apart. Again, that's an allusion to the origin story too.
Right.
The origin story, that may or may not be an origin story.
Yeah. Okay. Because I'll be honest, I thought that was where it was going. I thought it was going to be about something happening to an extraordinary person, because quite a lot of the stories we've done have been extraordinary things happening to ordinary people. Mm-hmm. And I was like, he's like got some freakish gift for not forgetting anything. But it makes sense in the context of what came after. Yeah.
Because again, if we're using it as an allegory, as a cautionary tale, a folklore tale, whatever, you know, what's the most important thing about passing down knowledge?
Not forgetting it. Yeah. Well, he could represent. He sort of represents a culture almost rather than a person. Like he's the embodiment of a culture. Like people might forget stuff, but if you take a whole culture, they won't forget stuff. You know, it takes a lot to forget every story for a culture, and he's like the physical embodiment of that. He's Folkman. Folkman. This is the new sort of universe you're saying. Folkman. He never forgets a story.
Folkman. He never forgets anything.
Help me, Folkman. I don't remember if.
You must use silver.
Hansel and Bookman.
I can't help you.
Gretel.
But he can't help.
He can't help.
He just has to tell you.
I had to sit down and tell the whole story, which is
What an annoying superhero.
it's frustrating for him as well because he's like, oh my radar's going off the charts right now.
Everyone's asking.
I'm gonna sit down, do the whole creepy old man thing, and we'll get under fire. I don't have time for this. Fuck man.
Where have we got? No, but I think you hit most of the marks that I intended with that story.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, and also like that was just stuff. That was just the major things. As usual, amazing description. Really put me into that world. I really like the effort you put in with the way people speak. The ne'er-gooders and stuff like that. Just speak loud. Just go loud.
Shut up!
I really like the effort you put in with the colloquialisms of how people speak, like the ne'er-gooders and stuff like that. It's just it does so much. It does as much as. As you were saying that, the trees around got more gnarled in my mind. The sort of hills look a little bit more windswept. It's just because of how someone's speaking. It sets the scene as much as actual scene setting does.
Yeah,
which I think is really
that means
good.
so much. Oh.
And it obviously takes sometimes when you're writing away and like paragraphs and lines will flash by, but like I get a feeling, I know for me anyway, that would be a real sort of, okay, this line is really important. What are they going to say? They're going to say the ne'er-gooders, like that's something I could see you sort of spending at least a minute, looking at that.
Oh, at least
what they're going to say. Yeah.
Which,
that's the thing. If someone's not really interested in storytelling, they'll think that took as much effort and time as you saying the trees on the edge of the woods. But just so props for that.
Thanks, buddy. It's very hot in here, Daniel. I can tell that we're both. It's hot. Believe us, it's very hot.
Let's do a score.
Let's do a score.
Get out the door! Well, there's no doors here when the woods.
Yeah, we're talking about doors. Oh, there are doors.
If there was,
everywhere.
Doors everywhere. But score I'm going to give this is an 8.16.
I think that's incredibly generous.
I was going to say 5, but
Oh wow! last minute point one.
a second. An 8.16. I feel like
I think that's incredibly generous. This was a difficult story. I will admit that.
I'm looking at some of the other 8.2s you did, and that's what I love. Is like we've got such a good reference point now. I think it was definitely closer to them. I actually think I would have wanted that to be a two-parter because I was you set up the world so well there that I actually really want you to write a sequel to that more than I think anything you've done so far.
Wow.
But as a standalone entrance into that world, that's the score I'm giving it. There you go.
Thank you, buddy. I think that's incredibly generous. Maybe I should have done it in 2 parts, but hey, isn't that the purpose of knowledge?
I guess so.
I don't even know what that meant.
But nothing can stop you.
The heat is getting to my head.
You do another one. Do another part sometime in the future.
Maybe I'll do half the part.
Exactly. Whatever. There's no rules here.
Sorry, guys.
Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you send your stories to this email address right here. We're doing a live stream soon and we read them all out, and the topic is radio. So keep sending them in. We've had some great ones.
We've had some great ones. In fact, we've had like 3 today that are awesome.
Yeah, exactly. It's boiling and we still lit a fire. I don't know what we were thinking.
Why did we do this?
But we're going to blow it out.
Maybe that's why it's so hot.
Let's blow it out.
How should we just sprinkle some silver?
Oh, that was the iron! Oh,
that was the iron!
Oh, God. Who's dead?
Oh.
Someone's dead.
Not again.
Who's dead? Is it Vish?
See you later, guys.
Bye.
Again?